So much of our mediated entertainment is about cruelty. And whether it's Dr. Phil or any of the kind of blockbuster, kind of even PG-13 films that we watch, there's a lot of like suffering and death. And on Dr. Phil, we have that kind of emotional cruelty. And check this out, what Dennis Gabor says. We have a kind of penchant or a desire to enjoy enjoy violence and cruelty. So Dennis Gabor asserts this. As long as the pain was unavoidable, the common people delighted not only in public tooth pulling by the barber at the fairs, but also in public executions. So, what he's saying here is that people wanted to be spectators of violence and cruelty. Uh, Not many people nowadays could stand the sight of the tumbril moving slowly through the streets of a town, with the delinquent tied to a stake and the executioner with the brazier next to him digging the red hot poker into the screaming wretch, right? I mean, those are words like tumbril and brazier have to, these kind of, the tumbril was the wagon of torture, and the brazier, I think, is the hot stoker where the iron would turn red so you could burn the poor victim. Remember also that cruelty is conspicuously missing from the seven deadly sins. If now we abhor it even more than the others, this is, I believe, due in part to the fact that physical pain is no longer an avoidable component of life. And then, so here are the test questions. And this is super interesting about why the public culture lost its penchant for enjoying other people's suffering. That's what he's saying. He's saying, like, back in the day, I mean, we like to watch tooth pullings, and there was no anesthesia, and we just there was something very interesting and appealing about watching people suffer. Tortures occurred in public, right, as well as like hangings and beheadings, all that stuff. So uh this is what Gabor says, right? As long as the pain was unavoidable, the common people delighted not only in public tooth pulling by the barber at the fairs, but also what? As long as the pain was unavoidable, the common people delighted not only in public tooth pulling by the barber at the fairs, but also in public executions, right? So people liked violence. What is missing from the seven deadly sins? Cruelty. Cruelty is not one of the deadly sins. I mean, if I had to name the deadly sins, I'm sure I could get like five of them. Here, let's see, what are they? There's lust, and then there is wrath, and then there's gluttony, and then there's vanity, and then, uh, there is, boy, there's sloth, and then there is pride, and I don't know, there's one more. I think I got six. That was pretty good. You have to figure it out, but cruelty's not one of them. Why do we abhor cruelty according to Gabor? Right? He says this. He says, if now we abhor it, right, we hate it, even more than the other seven deadly sins, this, I believe, is due in part to the fact that physical pain is no longer an unavoidable component of life. And that's what makes this so interesting in a kind of technological sense. I mean, we can take ibuprofen, we can take aspirin. If the pain is so unbearable, we can take morphine or like oxycodone or something like that. I mean, you can fully anesthetize the human being if the pain is so excruciating. And I mean, indeed, sometimes when the pain is so bad, they put people into an induced coma. And that's a sort of technological argument. It wasn't until like the 17th 18th century that they began to figure out these pharmacological formulae that would later become anesthetics for medical technology. And it really has to do, I mean, it was this change in the public perception about what was possible. So when everybody had to suffer, people found, I don't know, pain somehow entertaining, cruelty entertaining, and they watched it, and now we don't like it. It makes us sick.